no one in the crowd was speaking. People stood quietly outside Westminster Abbey, many holding flowers, others holding hands, some wiped away tears. The sky was gray, and the cold wind moved gently through the streets of London. It was one of those days that didn't feel real. Prince William and Princess Kate were about to arrive. Everyone knew why they were coming. The Queen Elizabeth II had died just days ago. She had been more than just a queen. She had ruled the country for more than 70 years. For many, she was the only queen they had ever known. She was strong, calm, and always there. But now, she was gone. For William and Kate, this was not just a public loss. This was deeply personal. The Queen had been William's grandmother, his guide, and one of the most important people in his life. She had loved him and supported him through many hard moments. She had helped him after his mother, Princess Diana, passed away. She had watched him grow into a husband, a father, and a future king. Kate, too, had shared a close bond with the Queen. She was more than a royal figure to her. She was like a grandmother. Someone who had welcomed her into the royal family with quiet warmth and gentle support. Losing her was like losing a part of their hearts, but now, even in their sadness, they had to be strong. That was the royal way. They had to show grace, calm, and strength in front of the world. But no one expected what would happen when they arrived. The black car slowly stopped outside the Abbey. The door opened. Prince William stepped out first. He wore a black suit, and his face looked tired. His eyes were red, and his jaw was tight. Then Kate stepped out. She wore a long black coat and a small hat. Her face was calm, but her eyes told a different story. They looked filled with pain. They stood there for a moment, side by side. William reached for her hand. She took it. Cameras clicked in the background, but they didn't look at them. They looked only at the steps of the church. As they walked slowly up the steps, people in the crowd whispered. "They look heartbroken," someone said. They really loved her. Inside the Abbey, everything was silent. The royal family, world leaders, and close friends of the Queen were already seated. All were waiting for the service to begin. William and Kate moved toward their seats, heads low, hearts heavy. But before they sat down, William did something surprising. He turned to the people gathered at the side, people who had come from all over the country, people who had waited for hours, just to see the Queen's family say goodbye. He nodded to them. It was a small gesture, but it meant something big. It said, "We see you. We thank you." Kate gave a small, soft smile, but it disappeared quickly. It was hard to smile when the pain felt so deep. For William, the memories were everywhere. He remembered being a little boy, running through the halls of the palace. He remembered the Queen's gentle voice, her quiet wisdom, and her firm but kind advice. She had always been there, and now she was not. Kate's mind was full too. She remembered quiet moments with the Queen, tea shared in private rooms, talks filled with calm and care. She remembered her wedding day and how the Queen had smiled at her with pride. And now she had to say goodbye. As the service began, the music filled the old stone walls. William sat still, his hands tight in his lap. Kate sat beside him, calm but clearly emotional. She held her small black clutch tightly. Every now and then she blinked hard, holding back tears. This was not just a royal event. This was grief. This was family loss, in public. And everyone watching, whether in the Abbey or on television, could feel it. No one expected this moment to feel so raw, so open, so full of emotion. But it was. William and Kate had always shown strength, but now they were showing their hearts. And in that moment, something changed. The people watching no longer saw just a prince and princess. They saw a grandson and a granddaughter-in-law. They saw two people deeply hurt, deeply human. This was only the beginning of that heartbreaking day. But already it was clear this was a moment no one would forget. The service was over. The music had stopped. Church was quiet. But the feeling in the air was still heavy. Prince William and Princess Kate walked out of Westminster Abbey, their steps slow, their faces full of emotion. The cameras followed them, but they didn't look up. They walked together, side by side. holding hands like they didn't want to let go. The world had just watched them say goodbye to Queen Elizabeth II. But what came next surprised everyone. Most people thought they would leave quietly with the rest of the royal family. Maybe go back to Buckingham Palace. Maybe stay away from the public eye. After all, they had just been through one of the most painful moments of their lives. No one expected them to do anything more. But William had something else in mind. As they stepped out of the abbey, the sound of the crowd reached them. Hundreds of people were gathered outside the gates. Many had been standing there for hours. Some had been there since morning, waiting to see just a glimpse of the royals. But they weren't just fans. They were people in mourning too. Some were crying, others were holding signs or flowers. Everyone had come to say goodbye. William looked at Kate. She looked back at him. There was no need to speak. They both understood. Instead of turning away, William took Kate's hand again and walked straight toward the crowd. The security team moved quickly, trying to stop them. "Your Highness, perhaps not now," one officer whispered.
What?
But William gently shook his head. "It's okay," he said softly. "Let's go to them." Kate didn't hesitate. She followed him. The crowd was shocked. The future king and queen were walking toward them. No guards, no big speech. Just the two of them, looking tired, sad, and real. An older woman standing in the front row began to cry as William reached out to shake her hand. She told him she had loved the queen her whole life. She said the queen had reminded her of her own mother. William listened quietly. Then he leaned in and gave her a small hug. Kate was nearby, kneeling down to speak with a little girl. The girl had drawn a picture of the queen and brought it with her. It was colorful, with hearts and a crown. Kate smiled gently and thanked her. She would have loved this, she said softly. The little girl smiled back, holding Kate's hand tightly. People nearby watched in silence. Some were crying. Others were just staring, unsure of what to say. William and Kate kept moving, slowly, meeting as many people as they could. They said thank you again and again. They didn't rush. They weren't acting royal. They were acting human. It was a rare sight. Most royal appearances are carefully planned. But this moment was different. It was natural. It was quiet. It was powerful. William stopped at one point and looked at the sea of flowers placed along the gates. So many notes were written to the queen. Messages like, "Thank you for everything, and we will miss you." He bent down and picked up a small card with a child's handwriting. It read, "You were the best queen ever. I love you." He read it out loud, and his voice cracked just a little. Kate walked over and stood beside him. She looked at the flowers too. So many people had left small gifts, teddy bears, candles, even hand-knitted crowns. It was a river of love, flowing all the way down the path. For a moment, William and Kate didn't move. They just stood there, heads bowed, side by side. The cameras took their pictures, but it didn't feel like news anymore. It felt like history. It felt like grief shared between a family and their people. After a while, William turned back to the crowd. "Thank you for being here," he said quietly. His voice was tired but full of meaning. She would have been deeply touched. Kate nodded. "She loved you all," she added softly. They stayed just a little longer before returning to their car. This time they didn't wave. They didn't smile. They just held hands again and quietly left. But something had changed in those few moments. The crowd didn't feel like strangers anymore. And William and Kate didn't feel like distant royals. They were all just people connected by loss, by love, and by the memory of a woman who had meant so much to so many. It was a moment no one had planned, and it was a moment no one would ever forget. That evening, the world saw something they were not expecting. A short video was posted online. It showed Prince William and Princess Kate standing quietly in front of the palace gates. There were no reporters around them, no guards standing close. Just the two of them, alone. In front of the sea of flowers left by the public for Queen Elizabeth II, it was not a royal event. It was not planned. It was a private moment, but it became public, and it touched millions of hearts. In the video, William and Kate didn't speak. They didn't need to. Her silence said more than any words ever could. William had his hands behind his back. Kate stood with her hands folded in front. They both looked at the cards, letters, and soft toys left by strangers, by children, by families, by elderly people who had known the Queen their whole lives. William's eyes moved slowly across the line of tributes. There were drawings made by schoolchildren. There were long letters written in careful handwriting. Some were short, just 1 or 2 words, "Thank you, ma'am." Others were long and full of memories. One card caught William's eye. It was a simple white paper with a hand-drawn heart. Inside the heart were the words, "You were the nation's grandma." He bent down, picked it up, and held it for a moment. His face didn't change much, but his eyes softened. Kate stepped closer to him and gently rested her hand on his back. He didn't move, but he leaned slightly toward her. It was a small, quiet moment of comfort. The video lasted less than a minute, but it went viral. People all over the world shared it. Some said it made them cry. Others said it made them feel close to the royal family. Everyone seemed to agree on one thing: this moment felt real. Later, a woman who had filmed the video told reporters, "I didn't mean to take a video. I was just standing nearby and I looked over and saw them. They looked so lost in their thoughts. I've never seen them like that before." Another person wrote online, "I always saw William and Kate as royal, distant, almost perfect. But now I see them as human, feel like I understand them more." Back inside the palace, William and Kate didn't speak much that night. It was quiet. The staff gave them space. They sat in the Queen's favorite sitting room, where she had once read books to her great-grandchildren. The room felt empty without her. Kate looked around and said softly, "It's hard to believe she's really gone." William nodded. He was holding one of the letters he had picked up outside. "She touched so many lives," he said. "I knew she meant a lot to people, but seeing it like this, it's overwhelming." Kate leaned her head on his shoulder. "She would be proud of you," she whispered, "of both of us." William stayed quiet, staring at the letter. "I just hope we can live up to what she stood for." For a long time, they sat in silence. There was nothing more to say. In the days that followed, William and Kate returned to their royal duties. But something had changed in them. No longer just continuing tradition, they were carrying a deep responsibility. They were now the face of the royal family's future, and the world was watching more closely than ever. Everywhere they went, people spoke to them not just as royals, but as people. They were asked how they were feeling. They were told stories about the Queen. They were hugged, cried with, and thanked. And they responded with kindness every time. In one small town, an elderly man gave William a picture of the Queen taken in 1960. "She came here once," the man said. "She smiled at me. I never forgot it." William took the picture with both hands. "Thank you," he said quietly. "I'll never forget her either." Kate, standing beside him, held the man's hand for a moment and said, "She lives on. In all of us." The Queen had always believed in duty, but she'd also believed in love and kindness. Now, William and Kate were showing that same spirit, not through big speeches, but through quiet moments, just like the one captured that night outside the palace gates. The world had seen them cry. The world had seen them comfort others. And the world was beginning to see something new in them. They were not just royals anymore. They were the heart of a grieving nation, and in their pain they had brought people together. The rain began to fall gently on the rooftops of London. It was the day after the Queen's funeral, but the feeling of sadness had not passed. All across the country, people were still quiet, still remembering, still trying to understand the loss. And behind the walls of Windsor Castle, Prince William stood by the window, watching the soft raindrops hit the glass. It had been one of the hardest weeks of his life. Kate entered the room quietly. She was holding a small, folded piece of paper. "Another letter from the public," she said gently. William turned. He took the letter and opened it slowly. The handwriting was small, a bit shaky. "It was from a child named Lucy," she wrote. "I'm sorry your grandma died. I cried too. But my mummy said she is with the stars now, and the stars shine because of her. I believe that." William read it twice. Then he placed the letter on the table beside the many others they had received. His voice was soft. "The stars. That's nice." That small letter touched him deeply. The simple words from a little girl carried so much meaning. In that moment, William realized something important. Grief didn't belong only to him. It didn't only belong to the royal family. It belonged to everyone. The Queen had touched the lives of millions, and now millions were feeling her loss. Later that day, William and Kate had one final appearance before they could rest. They would meet with palace staff, many of whom had worked closely with the Queen for years. Some, for decades. These were people who had been behind the scenes, helping quietly, never in the spotlight. Now they too were heartbroken. When William entered the room, everyone stood, but he quickly asked them to sit. "We're all here as one family," he said. His voice was calm but emotional. He looked around at the faces. Many were red from crying. Few had pictures of the Queen pinned to their shirts. Kate sat beside him, holding a small tissue in her hand, already wiping her eyes. One woman stood up. Her name was Margaret, and she had been a cook at the palace. "For over 30 years, I made her tea every morning," she said. "Every morning for 30 years. And now I don't know what to do." William walked to her and hugged her. It was quiet, simple, and deeply moving. Then another man stood. He was a driver who had taken the Queen to her Sunday church visits for many years. "She always asked about my wife," he said. "She always cared." Everyone in the room nodded. Story after story was shared. Small memories, private moments, the kind no one ever hears about in the news. But these stories showed something powerful. The Queen had lived a life of love and care, even in her most quiet actions. After the meeting, William and Kate returned home. The children were waiting for them: Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. They didn't fully understand what had happened, but they knew their great-grandmother wasn't coming back. William sat down with them and showed them one of the cards sent by another child. "Look," he said, pointing to a picture of the Queen drawn with wings. "Someone said she's an angel now." George looked up. "Do you think she can see us?" Kate smiled gently. "Think she's watching over all of us?" "Always." That night, after the children went to bed, William and Kate sat together in their room. They were tired, but something had changed. The sadness was still there, but it now lived beside something else, something calm and quiet. Hope. They had faced one of the hardest moments of their lives, and they had not turned away. They had walked into the crowd. They had cried in public. They had listened, hugged, thanked, and grieved alongside their people. And in doing so, they had shown the world who they truly were. Not just future king and queen, not just royals, but real people with real hearts. That week had been full of sorrow, but it had also been full of truth. The truth of love, the truth of loss, and the truth of what it means to stand tall in the face of pain, not by hiding it, but by sharing it. No one had expected them to show so much emotion, but in the end, that's what made the moment unforgettable. It was the most heartbreaking public moment of their lives, and yet it became their most powerful one.